Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Welcome to yet another broadcast here at Focus on Liberia. I'm Ansony hosting. Of course, this is our program Roundtable Africa. As always, with Sekou Keller, Edward Amara, and me, Ansony, moderating In today's edition, folks, we have a topic that you must pay attention to because it brought us on the foundation of who we are as a people. It brought us on peace and security. It brought us on harmony. And that is why I am welcoming you. So excited about this edition of Roundtable Africa. Comfortably seated, as you can see, is a chief discussion here. I focus on Liberia, the man Edward Amara, joining us from all the way Freetown, Sierra Leone. Edward, welcome. Another edition. I'm happy to be here. I don't know about you, my friend.
Absolutely, I'm very happy being here again, especially when we are about to discuss a topic that is touching each and every fabric in Africa. I'm really happy, and today is another interesting Wednesday, and tomorrow will be something very fantastic in Sierra Leone and the Muslim world in general, especially when the Ramadan will be celebrated.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we get into the topic, I'm just curious. You're talking about Ramadan there. So, how are things in the homeland there in Freetown, Sierra Leone, with Ramadan, COVID, the economy, and all? Before we get to the topic, tell us what's going on in Freetown, Sierra Leone. Tell us what is going on in Africa. You know, you have like 2 minutes to do so, please.
Oh, thank you very much. In Africa, in general, we all know the COVID-19 has not taken the severe toll on us as it has done into the Western world. With the exception of places like South Africa, Egypt, the COVID-19 have not been able to register huge harms or harm on Africa the way it has done into the Western world because of our advantage in terms of having youthful population. That is very fantastic. Though our health system is not strong, but our youthful population have been able to at least curtail the infection rate of COVID-19 in Africa. In respect of the Ramadan, I think most of the African countries are Christian, especially Sierra Leone is a Muslim-dominated country. Check about Guinea is another Muslim-dominated country. I know Liberia is a Christian-dominated country. Ivory Coast will have a lot of Muslim over there. So they have actually been fasting for 30 good days. And based on the dispensation from Saudi Arabia, it has been finalized that tomorrow they are going to break their fast. And the 30 days fasting has definitely come to an end. It will come to an end tonight. So tomorrow they will be given that opportunity to eat as normal. And they believe that after carrying these 30 days rituals of fasting, all their sins have been forgiven. So there is that convivial atmosphere. The economy is doing good, though a lot of us are crying because of one or two things. Though we may not have anything at time, but we are joining our Muslim brothers to celebrate it. And thank God we are in this Akila state where we encourage all sorts of religions, especially Christian and Muslim. We also have the 80-year-old who celebrate and believe their own mentality.
Edward Amara is our West African correspondent based in Freetown, Sierra Leone. He is a discussant here at Roundtable Africa. If you are watching this program and you're wondering why you guys are here, I encourage you to be here. There is something fundamental about our existence as a people. As the people of Africa, that's a word that I want you to pay attention to. That word is called justice. We use it freely, and sometimes without thinking about it consciously. And that is why we are here to discuss. And so the topic for today is the state of justice in Africa. Are you an African? Are you in Africa? Are you in the Western world? Whatever you are, the issue of justice. It borders on fairness. It borders on equal treatment. And then you can throw all the professional words around about rule of law and all that. Justice is the foundation for any group of people, for any nation, for any place whatsoever. I was doing my research and I ran into something, and then I pick up 4 words from there. Number 1, they talk about order. They talk about justice. So, folks, we are here to talk justice. Edward, let's get started here. Our first question, Mr. Edward Amara, is what is the philosophy of justice in the understanding of the African man?
Thank you very much. I think when we say justice, justice came from the word just.
Mhm,
Just means righteousness,
mhm,
fair play, equity, equality, being at the equal level. Nobody is above another person, irrespective of your age, your size, your religion, your background, either it be your educational background, your family background, your economic status, your capability of standing out physically to fight or not. So the philosophy of justice is just simple that men should be treated equally within a particular societal setting. Nobody should be discriminated or manhandled, or his or her own rights should not be violated because you do not belong to a certain set of people. So to justice means fair play, fair ground, equal rights. Nobody is above anybody. It means the law is supreme. That each and every being is what vulnerable to the law. The law take the course. Nobody has the right to violate, intimidate, humiliate, molest, or harass any other person. So all about justice, the philosophy of equity, fairness.
Edward, you are right on point right there. And I like the word you mentioned, righteousness. And before I can come in to chime in also, this word righteousness in the African setting where we are more religious, the African men tend to use the word righteousness when we're talking about the deity, when they're talking about the religion, when they're talking about God, when they're talking about spirituality. But you know, our topic is focusing on justice, which is the foundation of any group of people. So, looking at the word righteousness, where you say that the word righteousness, which is the key component of the word justice, is being used, misapplied, misconstrued in Africa?
Thank you very much. When you use the word righteousness in Africa, it's a misnomer. They are
Mm,
trying to name it wrongly because righteousness should be based on the implementation. Because when you are saying righteousness, it's more a what the African man interpret it more to religion. And when it comes to the law, they apply something like justice. But justice in equal time is the same thing as righteousness. When we talk about righteousness, take a common example. And Africa, because Africa is the most religious continent, and most of African countries are absolutely religious because our mentality in handling people are quite different from other countries, especially the Western world. So African countries regard themselves as people who are righteous. When you talk about righteousness, you talk about the element of fair play. You talk about people who are treated not because of who they are, but or what they are. It is because they are called people and they also belong to that same typical setting. So in a typical African setting, you will come to observe that justice is not being applied, but yet it is being used. So most of the time, people tend to use either their economic power, their political power, or physical strength to implement justice the wrong way. But justice come in terms of fair play, where nobody thinks and feels that he or she has that absolute right to intimidate an individual just because you are well placed, you are economically viable than that other person, you are physically strong. So justice goes from the rather we start to observe the African justice from the home because we are expecting a home to have fair play where everybody have that expressive right. But if one person right is being intimidated, in Africa, there is one mentality. They said there is freedom of speech, but there is no freedom after speech. It means there is no justice, there is no righteousness. So righteousness all comes in fair play. That is why when a leader take over an African affairs, they watch at you into all aspects because they're expecting you to lead by example. You should be morally uprighteous. You should be somebody who should not be reproached in public. But it's just unfortunate and quite amazing that most of the time you see Africans leaders are being reproached, condemned, chastised, reprimanded, if not humiliated into public, because they have failed to observe the element of justice. So justice means righteousness, but righteousness is not being applied into the typical African context, because our leaders, power have definitely corrupt their mentality, and they feel that they have the right to intimidate, molest, harass, and even throw all sorts of things against their opponent. So definitely, if you enter, let's take up where justice sometimes apply into a typical African context. Visit a church where you see even a layman into the church will be given the right to perform his or her own duty. That is what we call justice. But because of our African mentality, you may even observe into certain churches, if you enter into a church, you definitely see those who are dressed beautifully, they have their own way of the places of sitting. And those who they think that at the end of the day, they may not be able to control to the financial standard of the church, they have different ways to keep them. So even the book of Amos is somehow related to the book of James into the New Testament. It preaches about what? About in our justice or what? Inequality within society. It tells you that everybody should be treated righteously. That was what Amos said. He said the righteous are being sold for gold and diamond. Why? The poor are sold for common sleepers. So that is why we are coming justice. When called justice, we need fair play, equity, where everybody is vulnerable to the law and the law is above everybody, irrespective of who you are, what you are, your political background, your religious background, the family you came from, wheresoever, nobody cares. But when the law comes, the law should be applied equally. But in the African context, we see righteousness more in churches. But when it comes to the political system, that righteousness is being eliminated because of power greed. And mind you, power normally blind people or even clouds their righteous way of thinking. Because even if you check into the Old Testament, there are certain people who are given power. At the end of the day, they abuse the right that was given to them. Like the first the first king into the Bible, King Saul. Why do you think King Saul was the first king of Israel? When the kingdom of Israel was always being ruled by priests, God said, I want to give my people a king. And the first person who became a king was King Saul. But because of power, he abused the right that was given to him and he applied injustice. God found him to be unrighteous. And to be unrighteous is like you to be on work, on feet. He said, as long as you have denied me as your God, I'm also going to deny you as a king. So no wonder if you see people confronting African leaders, humiliating them, molesting them, it is because they have abused the simple word called justice.
Edward Amara there. Edward, thank you so very much. Folks, we are discussing the topic, the state of justice in Africa. The reason, one of the key reasons, to put it right, why things are not the way we all wish they should be in Africa is our failure to recognize what justice is and to practice justice not only for our own benefit, but also for the benefit of the country, the town, the state, the institution, the church, and whatsoever. We as a people need to understand that justice is the foundation for any breakthrough, for a paradigm shift in anything that one does, in anything that a country does, in anything that an institution does. Justice is that element that will propel you to success, to that place where you will be treated equally, to that place where you will be respected. So when we look at the word justice, the true meaning is something that can be defined in 4 words. And let me bring that to you. That is order, balance, the word justice itself, and righteousness. Then we will have justice. So what am I saying, folks? Life, be it in the economy, be it in any profession of your choice, there has to be order. When there is no order, then confusion erupts. When there is confusion, then things are not in a balanced state. So let me give you a scenario that will make you to understand this. Most of the time in Africa, we complain about injustices. We complain about corruption. Why you think there is corruption? Because the one who is practicing the corruption has refused vehemently to not respect the order of business. If you, for example, are a commissioner for tax, you are the one who collects the tax, all right? When that money is paid to you, what do? According to the order, the way the system set up, you are there to ensure that dollar goes into government's coffers. That is the order that has been put into place. But that individual will disregard that order, will take that money for their own personal benefit, denying the government of the needed revenue. And then there is a budget shortfall, which represents complete disorder, which also represents a lack of balance in that particular system. So when people are not respecting order, there will not be balance. And when there is not balance, then there is no justice. Now, let me come actually to this word righteousness. And Edward was trying, he did a good job at talking about righteousness when I asked him the question. This word righteousness, to most Africans, we use it when we are talking about God. Righteousness is what gives rise to justice. The definition of righteousness is to do the right thing, making the right decision, taking the right action, doing things in the right way. That is righteousness. But unfortunately, Edward, in Africa, where we see righteousness as a virtue sent to us through God, that we see through spirituality, and hoping that we will go into our various communities, that we will go into our places of work, into our various institutions, and carry this righteous behavior by doing things right and doing things the right way. We do not do things the right way. That is the typical behavior that we exhibit all the time. And so, because even when we are talking about issues of war crimes, there is an order that when one is on the battlefront, there are certain people you do not kill. So when you are giving the order, do you follow the order? What kind of order is being given to you in the first place? So if you are giving the wrong order, then of course you will not do the right thing. And because you are not doing the right thing, that is complete lack of righteousness, thereby sweeping justice away. And so, folks, to conclude on my point here, in order for us to have justice in the middle, which is the foundation, first there must be order, there has to be the balance. Everybody must follow the right order to keep the balance so that everybody can feel respected, feel treated equally, and then we should be able to make the right decisions every time. That is how we achieve justice. But again, as though Africa is not clouded with this word righteousness, we've been taught the Bible, we've been taught the Quran, and they talk about righteousness, right? God is a righteous God. And we read all these things. By the time we walk out of the mosque and the church, we don't respect the order. We don't follow the balance way of doing things. And then at the end of the day, we come to Christ, pointing fingers at others. You're pointing fingers at the president. You're pointing finger at the representative. But you are the one, the teacher at that school, teaching bribe, which is out of order, which is not the right thing to do as a teacher, taking bribe from a student in exchange for grade, thereby denying that student the opportunity to compete in a fair, balanced, and orderly fashion. You, that professor, have done that. And so you have imbued in that particular student a corrupt mentality that Edward talked about, and that person continues with that. And at the end of the day, we don't have justice. So for you to understand justice, justice is not the code that you see. Justice is the way you act, the way you conduct business, the way we go about our daily activities, the way we show respect to our fellow men in everything we do. That is justice. Justice is not when somebody is persecuted at the Supreme Court or at the lower court or is being arrested by the police. That is how most of you see justice. And so those you learn righteousness in your church, which is the main ingredient of justice, when you walk out of the church, you have no clue that righteousness that you learn, you must practice it as you walk out of the door. This is the dilemma of justice in Africa and also across the world. Edward Amara, you just listened to me. I have a question for you here. Let's talk about the histories and importance of justice to civilization. Let's talk about that. The history and importance of justice to civilization. Please go for it.
Yeah, first of all, let us see how our African government are constructed. You see, in each and every government, irrespective of the state where that government is being practiced, we have the three arms of government. We have the executive, we have the legislative, some people call it the parliament, or others call it the House of Representatives, and we also have what we call the judiciary or the judiciary. And these three arms of government, when we talk about the executive, this is where you have the president, who is the head, where he is responsible to appoint his ministers. And those ministers formulate policies, and at the end of the day, they expect those policies to be implemented. We have the army, we have the police, and all the civil servants, as he mentioned, the teachers, nurses, whosoever that is civil or public servant actually belong to the executive branch of government. From there, we have the member of parliament, like we call in Sierra Leone, they are the MPs. And in Liberia, we have some who they are called senators, and others are called what? Our representatives. They have been elected on certain times. And you also watch at what they call the judiciary. The judiciary is actually where the justice belong. And all of these bodies operate on independent basis. And we expect the judiciary to what? To serve as a check and balance between those two systems, because the House of Representatives is responsible to make laws. The judiciary interpret those laws and punish the lawbreakers, while the executive only implement the laws. That is exactly what we are expecting from them. When you see the history and the importance of justice to civilization, we must understand that in a society where there is no government, life can easily become nasty, brutish, and short. And everybody may tend to behave the way he or she thinks or feel that is right for them. Because as long as there is no government, it means life over there is short, it is nasty, it is brutish. And you may see that everybody try to behave the way they think. So the history of justice started way back in Africa and to the entire world. Because when the world was created, when man was actually living in agrarian society, where they only depend on herbs or raw materials or raw fruit to eat on, you may see that they transverse from one extent to another, but still they lead themselves into group. And you start to see people who are leaders. And those leaders, they protect the weaker ones. So that tells you that justice have a long way to go in. And civilization comes in when our society become large. Civilization does not only mean because we are educated, but when there is improvement into our own life. When you see the standard of the society changes from a substandard one to a standardized one. So justice in a kind of civilized millennium that we are in, if where justice is not applied, you may see that civilization may not hold its own peak. Take a common example. Sierra Leone civilization, Liberia civilization, Guinea, Ivory Coast would have been more than this status if justice had actually been applied. But it tells you that because there was unrighteousness Injustice, people or what consciously violate the constitution because of their own selfish, unscrupulous needs. At the end of the day, when injustice applies, the civilization that was being created before this time relegated, because people who understand and they feel that whenever their rights are being violated, they have the right to struggle against those who are violating their right, may end up to destroy that particular civilization. That is why they tell you that any type of government where you have a leader who is not leading with the consent of the people, it means whatsoever development that you might have done or you may do into that particular country, that development is meant to dissemble one day, because people who are going to rise up one day against you to destroy everything that you have created, because nothing like that was not done. Justice comes with consultation. Justice is very important to civilization, because civilization comes in when the standard of our society improves from better to best. It will start from good, better to best. And you may understand that as long as civilization is coming on, people must work to the achievement of that civilization. But look at the African civilization that we are having today. Our leaders may tell us that they want to develop Africa. That's fantastic. Granted, they are doing it in the interest of Africa, but they are only developing Africa on their own mentality. What they feel and think is right for them is what they will do. But as long as you're not developing Africa with the consent of those who give you the leadership, it means you lost the legitimacy. And if you lost the legitimacy, one day people like that may rise up against you. Take a common example like Chad, how President Idris lost his life. You must understand that he lost his life through armed rebellion. And he also came through an armed rebellion to establish himself in 1991. Look at what is happening today in Uganda. Will you say the Ugandans are actually feeling justice? Is the judiciary working into their interest? No. The judiciary is only dancing to the tune of Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power since 1986. And today we see Museveni was inaugurated into office. After he sworn into office, one of the key opposition leaders into Uganda, Kizza Besigye and Bobby Wine, we are pushed under house arrest while the inauguration was taking place. And they are using the police, the judiciary, and all other, even the legislators over there are sitting down because they enact laws and they ensure that they make laws, and the judiciary interpret the laws, the executive interpret those laws. But if peaceful citizens are being placed under house arrest while a president is being inaugurated, how do you think justice is being applied? Justice is not being applied. So you are seeing he's instead building enemies who come to destroy exactly what he has created over these 31 years of power. And Museveni is one of the longest dictators into Africa, and he's abusing what we call justice. He's abusing the judiciary. The judiciary dancing to his tune. It is gone are those days when we have independent judiciary, where they said equality before the law, supremacy before the law. The law is free and the law is supreme more than any other. Unfortunately, in Africa, the president is supreme. The president is the law. And whatsoever thing the president decides doing, that is what exactly he will do. So justice is not being applied. People's rights are being violated into Africa. That is why you have seen our civilization has not been managed to go above the standard that we thought. This is the 21st century that we are in. Why should African countries still be advocating for light? The three basic necessities. You talk about housing. What is here? There is no housing in Sierra Leone, there is no housing in Liberia, no housing in, because when we talk about housing, we talk about standardized home. And these things are not found. Look at, we can't have light. There is no good road network. Even common water, we have a lot of water resources into Sierra Leone, Liberia. But why are we still struggling to drink water? It's because justice are not being applied. You are having few people, the educated elite, who are fortunate to be part of the political elite, and they are definitely feeding at the detriment of the masses. And these people are disgruntled. That is why they said violence is the void of the unheard. As long as justice is not being applied, our civilization cannot grow to a standardized one. So that is why up to now, you are seeing we are borrowing Chinese light to light. We have people here who call themselves doctors or chemists. They cannot even create a manufacture a paracetamol on their own. So all of these are left so.
Edward, you are point on that, and earlier I tried to tell all of us, let us see justice differently. If we all see justice differently, when I say differently, I mean understanding what justice is based on a true meaning. If we do, and we are able and willing to live in a just way The word justice comes from the word just. What is just? Doing the right thing. Any way you conduct yourself, any way you approach an issue, any way you carry on a task based on agreed upon standard and procedure that does not go against the right of others, that does not deny anybody of their right, of their benefits, that is justice. That does not violate anybody's wishes and aspiration, that is justice. So it is just plain simple. And we Africans will complain about how we're not being treated fairly in other places, especially in the Western world. Well, I come to our own Africa. How do we treat each other? You were talking about the history of justice and also talking about civilization. Have people of the world try to encourage and practice civilization by respecting the right of others? Have leaders in Africa made any significant efforts in improving or in using the resources of the country in a just way for the benefit of the majority? No, that is not the history. The history is that Mr. S becomes president, he appoints ABC, ABC, gets access to resources. The next thing we know, instead of he and the rest trying to put into play the system that would benefit majority of the people, that their children going outside of the country and they are leaving the rest of the people's children in the country. They are going into the Western world to get advanced education. Their children come back well prepared to take over from them. That is the history. Money is being allotted for electricity for the people. Somebody will have the guts to take that money for themselves and don't care to treat others right. There are people who need electricity. There are people who need water. What has been the just decision? What has been the right decision in the interest of the majority by our leaders so that many in the country will feel some sense of ownership, some sense of respect in their own country? But what we see is people are being given handouts by leaders they elect, and that is not justice. And again, I continue to make the argument until we try to understand that in the absence of justice, doing things the right way, making the right decision for the right reason, for the right people, if we do not see justice that way, we miss it. And that is why we continue to miss it today at the courts. Because these issues, first of all, should not go to courts. And I like the part that Africans are so religious. Just be your brother's keeper.
The Africans only
Do
know that.
unto others as you want others to do to you. Are we doing that? If somebody is given the opportunity to educate or to build a school or to educate their own child, what school would they want their child to attend? That person will want their child to go to a better school. But these people who know that their children deserve better education, they are in charge. According to the order, there are few people who will be placed into government to serve the collective interest of the majority in the country. So you are being given this, great opportunity according to the order of government. And instead of following that order to serve the people who have given you that opportunity to serve them, they are serving themselves. They are not going according to the order. Edward, that is justice. And so when the leaders in Africa are not able to do those things that will not even cause them anything much to ponder about, I see why it has become difficult for them when it comes to the issue of making life and death decision. Because this thing is simple. How in most African countries, our African governments, you see that nearly 80% of the budget is going toward them who are in government. Their cars. So these people, their cars, they're getting gas, they're getting strike cards, they're getting money for their homes. Edward, everything for them is being paid for just because they are working in government. But the teacher, for example, who is preparing the country for tomorrow by educating the future of the country, the young ones, that teacher is only entitled to his salary. Where is the justice, Edward? Where? I am a teacher employed by the government. I only get my salary. I am a Liberian and I'm an African. I'm employed by the government as a teacher. My only entitlement is my salary. I have equal right to the country resources, just like the senator does. The senator is the one who is appropriating the budget. Edward, the senator decides that the teacher is only entitled to his salary, only, no other benefit. But that very senator, who was once a student under a teacher, makes a decision to get traveling allowance, to get money set aside for his car, money set aside for the gas of that car, set aside money for the repair of that car, set aside money for his medical. That is the decision that senator is making. Is that fair? Is that the right decision? Is he treating that particular teacher equally? Edward, is he? No. That is the justice that we are talking about. And to understand it much broadly, when these rights, the equal distribution, treating others fairly is now being done, when few people get more and less people get, when few people get more and more people get less, then more of the people get angry. They start to agitate. Now the order is being broken because the people who were put in charge to manage the order, to allow the order to flow, are not doing right by that order. And so at the end of the day, we start making the noise about corruption and here and there. And then the ordinary man is starting to steal right now. And so that child is not getting the right education to compete. And so that teacher is not having enough for he and his family so that he will be able to teach that child very well to the best of his ability. So because he has limited resources to care for himself and his family, he is now constrained to take something from a student. The society is not based on justice. People are not being treated fairly. And this is the behavior in Africa. Greed is now the virtue that many people are practicing. It is all about themselves, themselves, and themselves only. Edward, we must understand justice for what it is. Simple. I am the teacher. Am I supposed to take bribe from the student? No. That is the right thing to do. So don't do it. Student, are you supposed to study? Yes, you are supposed to study. You are not supposed to offer the teacher any money for grade. Is the student doing that? Yes, the student is doing that. That is not just. That is not the right thing to do. And so until we understand what justice is and how to practice justice, all these codes will get filled, all the prisons will get filled because that teacher's son is not eating well. So he has seen reason to go and steal. There are no opportunity created for more people. They have jumped into armed robbery, and so the prisons will get filled. Folks, let us see justice for what it is. Let us add justice for what it is. When we do, we will be getting in the best place or in a better place. But until we see justice that way, Edward, we Africans will continue to sit around. And when sometimes we wonder, why are we not competing better educationally? Why in Africa, Edward, people are not making cell phones today? It's because we don't put justice at the decision making. Because if we do justice by, providing sufficient funding to educate the youth of Africa, creating laboratories, making sure schools have all the things that they need, Edward, for the students to compete, they are not different from Westerners who are competing. In Africa, it's already happening. Imagine if we put more money in the right places to the right people by doing it justly. We will get there. Until then, Edward, we are just wasting our time, my brother. Edward, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
You see, you rightly mentioned everything. I think even corruption is done because of lack of justice. And everything is being done because people abuse the right that they have given them to do. It is just unfortunate that a typical African thinks and feels that the best way that justice can be applied is in court. But justice should not always be applied in court. Rather, we should always think that if you have given a particular task to be undertaken, that task should be taken based on the dispensation or the orders of the task. But you see people willfully violating what they have given them. You rightly mentioned certain things like about teachers, lecturers, and whatsoever thing, and even our community setting. You see, one thing, if corruption starts from up, it deprives those who are down, and it creates a type of vulnerable situation. There are certain people who are doing wrong consciously because there is no way for them to do, because they have to survive. And that tells you that you have already put them into a situation that, just a common example, if you have a child at home, every day keep violating the right of that child, he's going to rise up to a certain age. If you hit him, he's going to hit you back because he knows exactly what it means to be hit by somebody else. So what we are saying here, justice should not only be observed from political level. Even we who are civil servants, we who are teachers, are we actually applying what we signed for? Are we taking up to our moral responsibility? As a parent, are you applying justice to your family? How? Because when you give birth to a child, it is the responsibility for you to bring up that child into a way that he or she can be responsible into the future. But as long as he failed to bring up that particular child into a standardized or accepted form, it means he did not apply justice to that particular child's life. So justice is a kind of holistic thing. We should not only limit it to political level. Rather, we should watch at it even from our society setting. This particular chief that was given power, is it actually acting in the interest of us? What else do we do? Justice on my own part. Am I paying tax? If you are paying tax, then you have the right to tax the government to do certain things. But most of us, we circumvent certain things, and we think that, in fact, it is just unfortunate that an African man always think that when they say justice has been applied, it is somebody has been found into court guilty. No, somebody violates your right before ever you know that particular justice has been applied. No, we should start to take certain corrective measures to prevent things that are underdeveloped in our African country. We are backward today because justice are definitely not being applied. Our leaders take oath, they fail to honor those oaths. So even when they deprive us with education, or when you deprive somebody with education, it means you are depriving him from information. And if you are depriving that person from information, it means you are not empowering the person. And he who is not empowered is also a handicap. So most of the people are misbehaving, trying to think the other way. It is because they are not adequately, and they are not informed with quality. Most people took to war in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea, even the Ivory Coast. It is because they do not have the adequate information. If a good foundation have been laid, they have the education, nobody would have forced them to join the rebels. It is because even their mind can make them to think justifiably or objectively. Unfortunately, all of these things are lacking. So African societies is really set on a powder till we observe the element of justice, not only in religious houses, but also in our dealing. Because we only go to church on Sunday, sometimes on mosques during Fridays. But we keep on interacting with ourselves. But we are disrespecting what we call righteousness and thinking that it will come from heaven. No, it must start within ourselves.
Go ahead, Edward. I'm connecting the phone line. Go ahead.
Yeah. So justice must start within ourselves. We must understand that for each and every society, we must be responsible. There are certain things they say, he who seek equity must come with clean hands. Most of us today who are trying to seek for righteousness, are we righteous? Are we in position to hold the government responsible? And how can we check the excesses of those government if we are also in a situation that we can easily be bribed? You have never seen a teacher or a lecturer who has been given bribe and he exposed that particular student. No, you have never seen a pastor who will stand. In fact, if you enter into the religious house, that is why our African society is totally corrupt. You enter into a religious society and you see commotion within members. A pastor will definitely side with the church member who always pays a tithe. And when he knows that that particular church member is guilty, he may not come to tell the fact. He will say, let us just try to advise them. No, they said, justice denied is justice delayed. However, justice must not only be done, but it must be seen to be done. And if justice must be seen to be done, then let it be done in the hearing of all others. We should not circumvent the truth. But in a typical African setting, everything is being circumvented because of our selfish, unscrupulous mentality. How do you expect our society to grow from one stage to another if we are teaching our children at home corruption? If children are being sent to school, they practice the art of corruption. Even our curriculum need to be changed. And things like good governance need to be taught. It may surprise you that people in Africa think that good governance is the same thing as democracy. Democracy just the means that a government can be elected into power. But we need to apply the elements of good governance. Good governance comes with equity, equality before the law. Good governance comes when the natural resources are being equally distributed, when party mentality or partisan attitude is being deleted, when people are not being employed on tribalism, when people are not being employed based on name, when people are not involved into nepotist attitude, when tribal sentiments are being deleted, when favoritism is lacking, when you have your qualification, you are being employed because you are a qualified citizen to be doing so. When you offend the law will definitely discipline you, but you are only seeing the big fish are being left to do wrong and they go with impunity. Why those who have little or nothing to do, they are the people that are prosecuted, they are being prosecuted today. Check into African prisons or into correctional centers that they are calling them now into Sierra Leone. When you enter there, you see young people languishing. And they may be there over 2 or 3 years. No judge will take them to court. It is because justice is not being applied. Those who are in power, they are bribing the system. So we need to be very careful.
Hello?
Yeah, Edward, we have a caller. Sorry about that, Edward. We have a caller. Caller, your name and where you joining us from?
My name is Sunday Tower Johnson, calling from New Jersey, Atlantic City.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to show. I want to say thank you, PA, for this beautiful topic today about justice.
Mm-hmm.
Justice say in Sierra Leone, justice say in Guinea, justice say in Liberia and Gabon.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell the brother from Sierra Leone, you are doing a great job. Justice is something I'm living in the United States.
Okay.
Yeah, I've said it all. Justice is something that our people need education. Our people need good justice system, civilian system. Our people need health care. Our people need good rules. And our old people need a home that they also can be fed. And all the resources in Africa, our people not enjoying it. And our brother from Sierra Leone said it. He said because the water happened in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea was because the people were not fed with the resources that God blessed us with.
Right.
Until we get justice, that's the only way Liberia and Sierra Leone and Guinea and all African countries will be able to be prosper. Because today I got my 2-year-old son, my 5-year-old son. He go to school. I ain't got to pay money. He go to daycare. He start going to school. From the time he was a baby, and now he's 5 years old. So we need a kind of education. Our brother said we need education in Africa, and the people are depriving our people from education. Even the government of Liberia, the senator, like you said, here, the government, the senator make more money. Yeah, what's the name? I don't want to call him directly long went in the Senate. He was skinny. Now he's fat. Next time they come, they be skinny, but when they go become a senator or representative, they become fat. They become big. They enjoy all the money from the country. And the poor people who ought to be enjoying, they are getting dry. So let's continue to pray for justice. And I like the topic I'll be watching. God bless you, CA. Thank you for the focus on Africa.
Thank you, caller. That was our caller dad. He agreed with you, Edward. Look, I'll continue to make the point here. What do we see as justice? I think we have the wrong understanding of justice. Justice is not when somebody has stolen something and then they're going after that person. That is not the only justice. That should not be the focus of our understanding of justice. In Liberia, for an example, the Southeast, we have one government after the other. And not because I'm there. This is something we all agree with. That place, you can't get there during the reading season. We have had government upon government, Edward. This one problem can't be solved. But you know the problems that get solved? Cars for government officials who don't have nowhere to go other than to just go around in Morovia. How is that fair? Our people are stranded on the roads. And this is not this administration, previous administrations, and this problem can't be solved. That is not justice. If you want to treat our people in the right way, provide for them those things that they need to be happy, to see themselves as having right to the resources of the country. And people who are in authority must be intentional about how they meet the needs. These are the justice issues I want to talk about. It is not about Cabinet Janin or being impinged and all that. No, I don't want to worry about that justice issue right now. I have been one of those advocating for things like that. I am one of those advocating for war crime code. But do you know why are we even talking about war crimes code today? Because in the past, majority of the Liberian people were being discriminated against when it came to basic social services. People who were in government were just taking everything for themselves and giving the people little or nothing. And so some, and you look at the history of Liberia, when the settlers came, there was a government, a former government established, and what happened? In the first place, some group of people were not allowed to vote, even though they were the ones who were on the ground. They could not be allowed to vote. At some point, too, women could not be allowed to vote. These are the justice issues. Why were some people even denied of education? Because they have certain needs. And in today's Liberia, there are villages in our countries, all around Africa, that don't have schools. Even if there's a school, it's a mud school, there is no chair. And then our officials are riding the best of cars. Some of them 2, 3. The presidents are having sometimes 15 to 16 cars. Not a single one is even about $50,000. Sometimes all of them about 50,000. How is that fair? You are using my country's money that's supposed to be used on all of us to take care of the weak among us to make the country strong. Those who are already strong, we are making them stronger economically. We are making them stronger financially. That is not justice. Edward, let's take some comments here, then we'll go back to the phone lines here. We have to look at issue of justice differently. Let's hear from Boy here. I learned that Ghana was going to have a protest this gone Sunday, but the president post stop by calling the police and the military in Africa. Somebody is making, the people want to express themselves, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly. If this piece of information is true, the people should be given an opportunity to do so. It is their right. It is just for them to be allowed to speak out on what they see as wrong. Let's hear from Adams. When can we call? The phone is dead now. People, somebody just call. Jimmy Eastman, Ansony said, from my assessment, many librarians are quite happy with the status quo. They don't really want things to change. They don't want things to change. And the point I'm making is that we all have our own individual responsibilities. You know, justice is what we do from our very homes, how we take care of our homes, how we take care of our children. If we are teachers, if we are doctors, how we relate to our patients, how do we relate to our students, how do we run the institutions? That it is all that matters most in terms of justice. Hi, Ansony, I'm watching from my end. Thank you for watching there, Vivian. We appreciate you. So let me see if we have a caller, Edward, and I'll bring. Okay, we don't have a caller right now. Mr. Edward Amara, I will bring you in so that I can conclude. The issue of justice, I continue to argue here that we need to look at it differently. We need to look at it differently. There are things that are not being done. I'm not saying when we do all of those things, it will prevent some deviance in the society from not going astray and doing something stupid. But for the most part, we will be sure that we are doing the right thing, and doing the right thing represents the justice that we want. Your take, Edward.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to comment on that caller's or that texter when he said Ghanaians are about to go on street, but the government stop it. I think I follow the issue. I think Ghana are having problem with their economy, and the government is calling on the people to fix it. So I think the opposition leaders want to organize a demonstration against it. But the government said because of COVID-19, they are not going to allow them. But similarly, it was out of COVID-19, we had another government that was being elected. So they said, what is good for the goose is also good for the gander, and they refuse it. And then we are even saying that he who seek justice should come, or equity should come with clean signs. Like all of this debate we are going on and on. I think it's a fantastic thing. We more understand that Africa, our mentality, our mindset need to be changed. We understand that justice should not be what we go and listen or hear in court. That is no longer justice. It's applying punishment because that person failed to be righteous. And when people are taken to court, they are taken to court for discipline because they have violated the constituted right given to them. And we all should understand that the same Bible that or Quran people go to play in mosques or preach in church or mosques is the same Quran and Bible that we have in the form of constitution. Our Sierra Leoneans, Liberians, Guineans, Ivorians, Burkina Faso, or whosoever that is an African, must understand that our society is no longer adhering to the standard that we wanted it to do. It is raining there, Mr. Sir. So
yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So we must at all costs fight a unanimous fight. We must at all costs hold our government responsible. By the end of the day, teachers, lawyers, doctors, or the civil servant or the citizens to understand that righteousness should be part of citizens. And we must start to hold our government responsible. But the important thing that needs to be handled so that this justice system can be adequately applied, if we want to have a standardized quality education system where people are given adequate information and on a timely basis. And when children are being carefully taught in our schools how to hate justice, they will understand that their suffering all today is based on corruption. And corruption is also another injustice. But people think that corruption is not injustice. To a layman, except when you violate somebody's right in type of physical thing, they will think that that man has treated you unfairly. They are not knowing that even when they are corrupting our national resources, it means they are treating us unfairly. And if they are treating us unfairly, it is not only corruption, it's also another unrighteous attitude. So to conclude, I think and I feel that the best way that this thing needs to be fight against is to have active civil society who are willing not to only seek for political offices, all right, but they should seek that let the educational system be sanitized. Let children be taught writing, and our entire curriculum need to be changed. Civic rights need to be taught into schools, and aspects like corruption need to be preached against. We need to have children who are being sensitized at an early age. So all of them must understand what does it mean to be corrupt and what does it take to be a righteous person. From there, we can have a sanitized society, or else our development will continue the way it is today. Thank you, Mr. Sekou.
Thank you. Edward Amara is our West African correspondent, is chief discussant here at Roundtable Africa, folks in cyberspace. We brought you yet another my opening topic, the state of justice in Africa. Folks, justice, we need to know it, we need to understand it for what it is. When we do, and when we live it, and we practice it in everything that we do, I can guarantee you, folks, we Africans will be getting there. Now, let me speak to you briefly here on the consequence of injustice. Anything that is not just is injustice. When someone corrupts, that's injustice. The consequence, that person has taken money that should have gone to a school or to a hospital or to a road. Now, because of corruption, which is a huge injustice to any nation, to any group of people, what we have today, we have bad roads. Some places we don't have roads at all. Bad schools. Some places we don't have schools at all. Bad hospitals. Some places we don't have good hospitals at all. And because the hospitals are bad, or the lack thereof, people die when they get sick. And because there are no roads, people have to walk sometimes 4 or 5 hours to get to certain destination. I live in a county that is being known as ground walking county. To get from one point to another, we have to walk for hours, sometimes having heavy loads on our heads. Do we actually deserve that? We don't deserve that. These are the consequences of injustice that we continue to pay today. One consequence of injustice is the issue of rape that we have in our country. Why should an individual impose on himself sexually on another person, especially a minor? That is injustice. The life of that child is destroyed. That person is traumatized, if not for their entire life, and some of them don't even recover. That is the consequence of injustice. Why are we not behaving just? Why are we not applying justice? Justice is doing the right thing, making the right decision, taking the right actions for the benefit of all. That is justice. But many of you don't see justice that way. You feel that it's just that you are giving the teacher this money because it gives you a better grade. You feel that it's just for you taking this money that belongs to the government because you use it to pay a house and you will live in a befitting house. You see that as justice. That is injustice. And as I was trying to say, the consequence of that, the school will not be built, or the school will not be equipped. The consequence is that the budget will experience a shortfall. And because there's less revenue being generated, because some of you who are in the areas of collecting revenue, taking the money home, that teacher is not paid. And because that teacher is not paid, that teacher is constrained to take bribe. The system is being corrupted because the order that's been put into place is not being followed by the individuals who are at the points of order. A point of order could be a teacher. A point of order could be the police officer. The police officer is supposed to ensure that people follow what? The traffic rules. But when the police officer stops somebody only with the intention of taking a bribe and let that slide, and that driver continues to drive recklessly, what happens is that that driver makes an accident because that driver is going at an excessive speed. The order is not being followed. There is no balance. People are not making the right decisions. But if we follow the order, If people are going by the other, things will be in balance. Then we will achieve righteousness, which is doing the right thing. And at the end of the day, we will achieve justice. We'll get our schools. We'll get the young ones to go to school. Even in that village, there will be a school. And that school will also have teachers to teach them. They will also have seats to sit on. Are you not aware that there are schools, even in Moravia? The last time we saw the video, when the president went to see top high of all schools, the walls, the leaking, walls were leaking. Chalkboards as old as 50 years right there in Moravia. And yet these guys rob big cars. It is that justice to you? Well, your understanding of justice is when Kabina Jana is booted out of office. And then we all yell about that. I'm not saying that is wrong. Folks, another exciting edition of Roundtable Africa here, focus on Liberia. My name is Ansony CA. I moderated here with my partner Edward Amara, based in Freetown, Sierra Leone. He is focused on Liberia, West African correspondent. We want to say thank you for following all our events here at Focus on Liberia, where we educate, and promote all things Liberia. Of course, we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. There is a song that says we are all Liberians, as always, folks. You know it. That song takes us home all the time because we are all Liberians. That song, and bye-bye from me and Edward. Thank you, folks, for watching.
Oh,